Hello, everybody out there. This is Robert Price coming to you live Thursday. We're getting ready to go live here on Instagram as well. And obviously here in StreamYard. And all things are going to be good. I'm actually getting rid of this. Perfect. Awesome. We got folks hopping in the group, my Facebook group, hopping in on Instagram and YouTube as well. Coach, how you doing? Thanks for joining. Chris, thanks for hopping in on Instagram. Hopefully you guys are all doing well out there. It has been a busy week of a lot of golf, which is a good thing. I'll give folks about 30 or 40 seconds to kind of hop in to see that this is live and up and running. For those of you who are fresh in and new, this is an opportunity for you guys to kind of hear a little bit about mental performance coaching and how I get to go about doing what I do, sharing some tips out there for parents and obviously junior golfers and those who golf as well around the mental space with regards to golf and looking at how today specifically what it's like walking inside of the ropes, listening to a practice round from professional golfers, also walking and listening through obviously the clients that I'm working with presently that are out there playing at a very, very high level. And so this is an opportunity for me to share a little bit of those things with you guys, get any feedback, questions that you may have specifically for your own junior golfer, your own kid, or for yourself with any mental game related questions. I'm open to those things to be able to use this platform to just share a little bit of my own perspective and how we can actually go about improving and increasing your ability to actually have a game that is mentally tough, but more importantly, to have the mindset of a champion. So again, those are on Instagram. I appreciate you guys hopping in. YouTube, I see you coming in as well. And obviously here in my Facebook group, it's a pleasure to see you all in here as we're getting ready to hop in to the content for today. Is again just getting inside the ropes and listening and hearing exactly what and how a practice round might go, or the information that is gleaned in a practice round specifically. So I get an opportunity to share a little bit about what I did on Monday with regards to doing that, walking inside the ropes during a Monday practice round for a young man who's playing right now as we're talking out there at the Landings here in Savannah, Georgia at the Club Car Championship. So without further ado, let's just kind of start digging in a little bit. Again, for those of you who are new to me, Robert Price, I am the owner of Elite Minds LLC, mental performance and coaching consulting firm, really geared toward this podcast really is geared toward junior golfers and their parents specifically. But fortunately for me, I've had the opportunity to work with athletes amongst all sports. This is also a busy season for me with regards to the NFL draft coming and pro days that have been going on since early March. Just guys really giving themselves the best opportunity to get drafted or find a home as an undrafted free agent, and just really giving those guys a really good opportunity. So again, this is an opportunity for those who are out there listening to just hear a little bit about what's going on inside of the Facebook group, yes, but also just a little information about, well, what is it specifically that you need to know with regards to practice rounds and how we go about managing those things and ensuring that what we're doing or what we're saying to our athletes, to our golfers, if those things are matching up, because it's really, really important for us to make sure that we're getting the most out of our time when we are out there on the golf course. So we know that there are some athletes out there listening, some parents out there listening, specifically that are getting ready for their kid to participate this weekend in some kind of an event. And so what I'm curious to know and learn is, so how do the professionals that I'm working with specifically, how are they actually going about their practice round? What is it that they're trying to glean from the golf course in that time? So I really wanted to just spend a little bit of energy today speaking about that because I think it's super important. I also had a session today specifically with a college golfer that I'm working with around his practice rounds and actually using a book, or creating a book for yourself if you don't have the means or access to getting a book. And I've mentioned on this before that Michael Bursine of Underpar Consulting, he knows he's going to be a guest. We have to organize our time and schedules to be so, but we use in our home, and many of my clients use PuttView. Strakaline is available out there as well. Obviously, Decade. You can create books through Decade, which is an amazing resource as well. So any of those opportunities really allow for us the energy or the space to really look at how do we go about a particular practice round for a tournament that we're getting ready to play in. What are the things that we need to be thinking about? How are we organizing our thoughts or our book that we have that we're preparing and getting ourselves ready for? So with that, here we go. So one of the things that what I noticed specifically by watching and actually interacting with this particular player while he's out there practicing and his caddy was how they were actually going about the holes themselves. Did they hit tee shots on every hole? They did not. Did they keep score? Of course not. Did they look at where their misses would go? Yes, 100%. Did they talk through or walk through all of the 4 days worth of pin positions? Yes, they did. For some of our junior golfers, if you have a 2-day event, then there's 2 days worth of hole positions that you have. Sometimes we get an opportunity to play 3 days, so then there's 3 days specifically. But knowing that as soon as you can, depending on the tours in which you all play, usually they let you know at least 2 days or so before the event. So it makes sense for us to find that information, print that off, put it in a book that we either have purchased or book that we've made. Some of my athletes use Google Earth, make their own books. They walk through the golf course. 18 birdies is another thing. I don't get anything from these places, but those are opportunities or options for you. Blue Golf is another space or place. I also know like the USGA, their particular system, you can grab and look at a golf course. So really to be able to come up with the pictures that are important is the next best thing. So what I always share and what I also heard while walking literally was we want to know obviously what our carry distance is for the club that we're going to be hitting off of the tee. Obviously, there is a little bit of guesswork within that, but for the most part, you should know what that is for you. Especially if you're playing at a high level, you should know what your carry distances are. Now, the fun thing about this is obviously working with junior boy golfers is they think they can hit it a mile down there in the air on the fly, but we know that that's not accurate because obviously when we're watching the tour as well, I mean, they're not necessarily carrying it 330, but obviously they're hitting it 290, 280 in the air, which is an amazing distance. And then the ball is rolling out to that 230, 240, 340, 330, 330, 325, whatever that looks like when we watch it on TV. So it's super important to know what that carry distance is going to be off the driver or 3-wood or 2-iron or whatever it is that we're going to be hitting off these particular holes. And so that's important. And being super honest with ourselves with regards to that. I mean, the reality of it is if we're playing a par 4 that's 465 yards and we carry a drive 260 to 280, then now we have some information there, and we can actually go to that area in the fairway, in the rough, and actually hit that second shot that we need or will be able to play. Obviously, weather dependent, cold, hot, rainy, windy, all of those things impact and affect what we're doing out there. But step one is definitely this: to map out before we play the practice round the golf course before we play. So oftentimes with my even higher level golfers is they don't do that one step. So the first step is to, if we have a book, take the book out before we get there, go online, take a look at the pin positions that we're going to have, and then just simply mark them with pencil for the pin positions, because this may be a course that you'll play again, maybe at another time or another event. So step one is make our book or use a book that we've purchased. And once we are able to do that, then now we're ready to rock and roll. We get the pin positions for days 1 and days 2. We mark those in our book or on our book that we've made. And now we begin the process. Once we get there for our practice round, first few steps really is taking a look at obviously the greens. We want to be able to know exactly what these greens are going to do. So we're going to chip, we're going to putt on the greens, obviously, before even hitting balls. I think when we go to a new course or for the first time, that's like super important, is to get a lot of chips and putts at these new golf courses around the green area. So that way, you know how your particular golf ball and your wedges are going to be able to react to these greens and kind of what your putting stroke is going to be looking like for you. There's different ways to go about that, but more importantly, what's important is to get some chips, get some putts in to ensure that we know how our club is going to react on this putting surface. So that way we now have a better gauge of what's going to happen when we go out on the golf course. We know ultimately that the short game is super important, right? So we want to be able to get the short game as dialed in as possible as quickly as we can. So I always share that with junior golfers specifically. If we're able to get to the course, do some chips, do some putts, spending about 20 to 40 minutes just in that before our practice round. And then obviously going and warming up and kind of getting ourselves ready in the range session that we may need. But remembering that we're going to be hitting a lot of golf shots, so we don't need a ton of range time before the practice round. So the keys really are to make sure that we get our book. We start marking that book up with regards to the pin positions and placements. And then once we have that, then we get to the golf course ready for our practice round. We do some chips and some putts. We spend between 20 and 40 minutes there specifically doing what we need to do. Then we can go warm up appropriately before we head out on the golf course for our practice round. So based upon the work that you've already done, by looking at the holes, we begin mapping out the types of clubs that you're going to be using. So, off the tee, we're hitting driver, 3-wood. Are we going to hit a driving iron, hybrid, whatever that might look like for you? And one of the secrets, it's in the decade space, but one of the things that we know is when we're getting to a golf course really for the first time and we're playing this practice round, we're trying to figure out on the golf course, on the fairway, where is it the widest area? And so what club particularly or potentially could get us to that widest area of the fairway? Now, what I also like to do is that the fairway is super important, yes. But one of the things that we also want to be looking at is where is the widest part of the hole itself. So what I'm also including is tree line to tree line. And we're looking at rough also in that. So some areas and some courses, if you really understand what that looks like, is if you look at that tree line to tree line, we may actually have a particular part of the golf hole that is a bit wider, maybe than some other area where maybe the fairway itself is wide, but maybe there's a lot, the trees kind of come in there, or there's a bunker there where it kind of squeezes. And so it still might take 30 yards from left to right, but then what we're looking for is to understand that maybe there's some other pieces there for us. And so we really want to be able to recognize that and understand those things. So we're really looking at, I call it from tree line to tree line, what is the widest part of there. I saw that while I was walking on Monday inside the ropes. If it's a lot of trees, they're really looking at tree line to tree line to see, even including the rough. If my miss hits the rough, then I still have plenty of space here, particularly to get an approach shot to the green. And then they're choosing the shot from there, what they need to hit off the tee. So whatever distance essentially off the tee they need to get to that particular space. So that's going to be very helpful. That's step kind of 2. So we get our book, we look at it, we get organized, we start figuring out exactly where and what we need to be doing. And then going from that point, moving right on through the golf course. And so, again, the keys here is we're not going to hit tee shots necessarily off of every tee box, but we're going to be going to areas or landing areas where our tee shots should go and hitting some approach shots there, because we also know, based upon our book, where the pins are going to be. And so we can obviously shoot the flag, look at our book, start doing some deductions or some subtractions or additions, and then using the club to those particular pin areas, because that's really going to be important. It's going to help your junior golfer specifically really be able to feel really confident about what they need to be doing and accomplishing. JR, good to see you. QB, good to see you guys. Thanks for hopping in here on Instagram. I appreciate you guys on my live. Same thing for those within the Facebook group. So thankful for your participation in being present. Again, if you have questions, you can always throw them in the chat or right there. If you're in the Facebook, you can throw them right in there. You can just write a comment and it will populate for me. So again, we're looking at getting our books organized before we get there, meaning we know what the pin placements are going to be. Then once we get to the particular golf course, we're going to be doing some chipping and putting. Then now, once we've actually began that practice round, what we get an opportunity to do is dialing in and looking at tree line to tree line to really get a good gauge on where is the widest part of this particular hole, so that I can start figuring out from there what I actually need to hit off of the tee. So oftentimes we go down to that area, we find that area, we go back, we shoot the tee box that we're going to be teeing off from. We measure that out, we figure out what that distance is, and then now we know specifically what we're going to be able to hit off that tee box, whether it's a hybrid, driving iron, whatever it is that we're going to be doing. And then from that point, now we begin marking up our book. We also are able to kind of walk our ways and work our ways through the particular golf course. Again, what we're going to be doing while we're out there, specifically around the green structure, is looking at areas in which our misses typically will place us. If we hit draws, then we're going to be looking at, and there's pins on the left, we're going to be looking at the left side of the green. We're going to be looking at the rough on the left side, or if there's bunkers on the left, that's what we're going to be looking at. And then we're going to be playing balls out of those particular areas to those pins. If we hit fades or cuts into holes, then again, we're going to be looking at where the miss might be for us. And so then we get to chip and putt from those particular areas. So when we're out there, this is such a crucial thing for us, because you really want to understand, like when I was inside the ropes, like what is it that they're thinking? What is it that they're doing? And so I've been fortunate and blessed to be able to do this multiple times. But what we know is this: we try to make things super simple, especially in a practice round. We're going to be hitting quite a few shots. And so we want to make sure that the ones that we're hitting, that they are deliberate, that they're intentional, that there's a purpose behind them. So really the first steps, again, is when we're out on the course, is figuring out on the fairways where we can have that tree line, the widest part of the golf hole. And then looking up at the green complex, figuring out where our misses typically go. When we miss greens, we should be able to be tracking that information. If you're not tracking that, you definitely want to be able to start tracking that information. If you have a parent watching you, that is definitely something you want your parent to be watching for or paying attention to for you in a tournament, and getting some good detail and good data around where your misses typically are on certain shots. Long irons, wedges, mid irons, where are those misses? And that obviously dictates where you can go practice as well. But definitely in tournament golf, we know our misses tend to be similar. And so we want to be able to look at that, and then during the practice round, play from those missed areas, whether we're chipping or putting from those spaces. If we miss long or left or right or whatever it is, now we know we can go practice some putts from that space, or we can hit some chips to that particular area or from that area. So just to kind of recap, I know this was a quick one in some ways, but the reality of it is this: when we are getting ourselves ready for a practice round, what is it that we do? Oftentimes I hear kids telling me, oh, I shot 73 on my practice round. It was an amazing practice round. And I don't understand why you were keeping score, because you should have been hitting 2 or 3 shots, should not be putting everything out, not into the hole that's presented there for you, because that's not what you're going to be playing in the tournament. And so, yes, it takes, you hit a good shot into the flag or a particular shot into a practice hole, and then you can try to make that putt. That's great, because maybe it's 20 feet, 30 feet. You're trying to see how those putts roll. That's a wonderful thing to do, but keeping score specifically in a practice round does not help you. It actually increases your anxiety for your tournament round if you actually go out there and shoot some crazy number, and now you have an expectation of being able to go and do that again, or essentially, I birdied that hole yesterday in the practice round, I should be able to birdie that hole today. But conditions change and dictate a lot of that information for us. And so really specifically for my junior golfers who are paying attention and listening, you must understand, listen, the practice round is a practice round. It's designed there for a reason, to give you opportunities to practice around areas where you're going to be missing. So that way, when those areas show up during the tournament, they're not a surprise to you, and you actually know how and what you need to do in order to be successful from that particular area. So those are the important steps in this. So again, understanding what the professionals are out there doing with their caddies is they're going to areas where they're going to be missing around the green. They're going to be chipping and putting from those places. They're looking at the widest part of the hole, not just the fairway, but the hole itself. So from tree line to tree line is a good way to think about it. And then we're figuring out where, carry distance to those particular areas. And that's going to dictate the types of shots that we're going to hit off of the tee. Sometimes we will ignore some of that, and we're just going to hit driver. We'll bomb it out there. We're going to hit 3-wood just because it feels good to us or it's safe. And we'll do that. We can make adjustments along the way. So, but what we know is this: the most important space is to understand we got to have a plan. That plan has to be very intentional, very deliberate. And the first steps of our plan is, as I mentioned, whether you're buying books, whether you're creating your own books, but to then, once you have that book created, whatever you're using, is now we start marking that book up, because we're going to be looking at pin positions for the 2 days or 3 days or 4 days in this case that you're going to be playing. Once we get those pin positions, now we have a good understanding of when we actually go out to our practice round, what we're going to be doing. We're going to be spending our first session essentially putting and chipping for about 20 to 40 minutes before going to the range to warm up to hit the practice round. We get to the practice round, we hit a couple of tee shots, obviously, whatever we're doing. But ultimately, we're trying to find the widest part on that hole. So as we're walking through that hole, we're really marking our book and figuring out, from here to here is the widest part. And then you can simply just turn around, shoot the tee box, and now you have about a number of where your ball can roll out to. That's going to be the widest part for you. So now you can see what that number is going to be as an approach shot, left, right, hit a couple ball, maybe a ball from the rough, ball from the fairway, and then to those particular pin positions that you have marked in your book. And so that is the basics of beginning to really get going with regards to how do we start honing in, getting more intentional, more deliberate with regards to our practice round. What is it that we're actually doing while we're out there? Why is that so important? Is to build the confidence that we need in order for us to be super successful with the round that is getting ready to take place. The wonderful thing about working in this space is I know that the things that you think drive how you feel and what you do. Since that's the case, I want to make sure that the things that you're thinking or thoughts that you have are written down in a book. And now you actually have information that actually brings your nerves down, less anxiety, helps you produce the type of performance that you're looking to produce. So with that, man, I really appreciate you guys out there joining me today. This was, I felt like a quick opportunity just to share some of this information that happens on the inside of the ropes with professional golfers that are out there. I want to give a shout out to Evan Harmeling. If you haven't followed him, you should. He is playing in the Club Card Championship this week, Corn Ferry event here in Savannah. He allowed myself and my son and another good friend of ours, Quentin, to walk around with him, to just see and learn from him specifically about how he operates and what he does. Thanks to his caddy as well for sharing and showing us his book about how he's going about mapping out the golf course for his player, and the work that he does and gets to get ready. I mean, he's out there before his player gets out there, walks all 18 holes before he does what he does. And so they're, definitely meticulous in what it is that they do, but we must learn something from them as well. How do we build confidence? Well, we build confidence by knowing some things, or at least reducing the things that are unknown to us. And we do that by making sure that we are able to have a very, very productive practice round. So again, if you guys have questions or comments that you want to throw in, please feel free to do so, because that is ultimately what these sessions are for, is for opportunities for people to ask some questions. So if you have some questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat, or wherever it is that you're going. What's up, Noob? Good to see you. Thanks for hopping in, man, and joining with me as well. So yes, so I'm open for some questions. If you're out there, if you have one, it's a great opportunity for you to share. This was a question that was sent on YouTube. I'll read these because the Instagram folks don't get an opportunity to see them. So this question says, what were the books that you mentioned again? So I'm talking about course books, or yardage books, where you can purchase them. I use a resource called PutView specifically, and I'll show. I'll just throw the website up for that. But I use them. But there's obviously Strakaline that is out there. That is another fantastic resource. Decade produces books as well. If you have an account with Decade, I do recommend that you do that. PutView is there in the chat for you to see that as well. And then what I also mentioned is some folks use 18 birdies, or even Blue Golf. They're able to go on there and find the golf course that they're going to be playing. Once they find the golf course that they're going to be playing, they log into their account, and then from logging into their account, what you then receive is some access to the actual course, and then you can begin the process for you of kind of creating your own book. Now, with that, you definitely want to make sure that you are following within the guidelines of your golf course, of making of the USGA rules. When you have these books, just look at another book and just create a book that's that size. It can fit in your yardage book, in your yardage book holder, your score holder, and then you can create your own book. But again, making sure that you're using some kind of resource to really prepare yourself for the golf event that you're getting ready to play. It does make good sense to start that ahead of time and really create what you need. So any of those books, if you don't want to create your own book, obviously purchasing a book, they can become expensive. But for your bigger events, bigger tournaments, or your home golf course is really what I would suggest you start with. From there, you're really able to get going and understanding exactly how you build that out. So if there's any other questions out there, I will gladly take them. Does my Instagram fam have any questions? Okay. All right. So I'd just like to give just a quick, plug again, but it's a plug for a reason. If you're on Instagram or on YouTube, I really want you to hop into my free Facebook group. It is in there that you get special offers directly geared to only to you. Things that I do not offer out on the open market. As I mentioned last week, I had selling a Junior Golfers Focus Black book for $29. There are 7 of those left. So I let folks know that here. And then ultimately you can only get access through that or to that through joining the Facebook group. If you're on Instagram and you want to hop in there, then the link to my Facebook group is in the bio. And so same thing on YouTube as well. But getting in that group is going to give you access to Robert and asking questions throughout the week that you may have with regards to the mindset and the mental game that is so important. So I look forward to hearing back from you guys. I want you to have a wonderful evening. Again, this is Robert Price, owner of Elite Minds LLC. Make sure you hop in that Facebook group where you can get this Junior Golfers Focus Black book. Again, 7 of those are left. Looking forward to hearing question and feedback. We're going to be having folks, obviously, who have already purchased and completed this book, being able to share their successes with it, really beginning to understand the things that they have control and no control, but more importantly, the things that they have influence over, because that is ultimately the thing that we will spend our energy and time focused on, is understanding like the things that I have influence over. And that's the stuff that I really care about. So with that, no questions out there for me. And so I am excited again. I'm glad I was able to share my time and energy with you here. Again, looking forward to a great weekend of golf on the golf links, and looking forward to seeing some of my clients make the cut and perform well on Sunday at the Club Car Championship. So without further ado, I get an opportunity to say good night and have a wonderful week.